The deadline to Security Breach draws ever closer with every new trailer and teaser. Sounds pretty relevant since the game's dropping in less than 12 days, though pretty bizarre considering that's something I said a whole 10 months ago. So much for that 2020 teaser. Anyways, let's cut straight to the chase. You already know we're here to call what's going to happen in Security Breach before it happens, so while the clock's still ticking, let's get started. I imagine that under normal circumstances, a good place to kick this off would be somewhere around FNAF VR, though these aren't normal circumstances. You see, we got some very interesting reveals recently from the Ultimate Guide that completely flipped the path Security Breach was taking on its head. As a TLDR, basically the Stitch Wraith and all its interconnected stories are now 100% confirmed to be canon in the primary FNAF timeline. This would probably be best covered in a different video, but in short, certain details from the Stitch Wraith's page absolutely confirm its canonicity to the games, such as how the box of evidence which Detective Larson pulls the puppet mask from is actually a box of evidence gathered from the Pizzeria Simulator fire site. I really couldn't be making this up if I tried. But if you're still skeptical, then check out the Google Drive linked in the description, which is composed of a majority of the book's pages, though most importantly, these specific Stitch Wraith related pages. So, now that we know the Stitch Wraith is undeniably canon, what does that change? Well, when it comes to the setup of Security Breach, it's actually pretty major. Instead of the Stitch Wraith specifically, think back to one of its interconnected stories, The Man in Room 1280. That story is now canon too, and while that's insane on its own and definitely deserves its own video, it actually helps to explain just how William actually ended up in FNAF VR and AR. This is going to be a pretty rough summary, but basically Andrew, who is bound to William and also now canon, has actually kept him alive past the FNAF 6 fire, which lands him in Heracles Hospital Room 1280 for many years. Yeah, like, it's weird, but William is actually in that hospital for several years, all while in sort of a comatose nightmare-based duel between Andrew. Again, better explained in a video that isn't this one. So, after the events of the Man in Room 1280 play out, and he ends up at the Fazbear Entertainment Distribution Center, I'm not exactly sure who of Andrew or William makes this decision, but William's body crumbles and basically explodes. When it comes to the Fazbear Fright series, this is where Andrew infects many of the distribution center's items, and also ends up with William in the battery pack of a fetch animatronic. While this mostly has to do with later events in the books themselves, the working theory is that William doesn't just follow Andrew into the fetch animatronic, but also in a group of old circuit boards being housed at the distribution center. Before this, it was assumed that circuit boards collected from the fire site were the ones which ended up in FNAF VR and AR, though now that we know William was kept alive in his own body after the fire, his collapse in the distribution center provides the perfect point for William to divide his soul into both the fetch animatronic and the spare circuit boards. How bizarre is it to think that William ended up in both the Afton Amalgamation and the Anomaly, which is now another canon name for Glitchtrap. Anyways, this turned out to be a pretty good idea on William's part, since the Afton Amalgamation would meet its downfall soon after, leaving William with about, I'd say, half of his soul left on those circuit boards. So, where does that leave William? Well, it seems that his intent is actually to multiply his reach, since after manipulating Vanessa through the virtual experience, he has her slip the Afton circuit boards into the Fazbear Funtime surface. Now, I know how we all feel about FNAF AR, but trust me, the game has some major implications far beyond itself. What if I told you that the more Remnant you collect in FNAF AR, the stronger William gets? Yeah, this is something confirmed by the Ultimate Guide, which states that the objective to collect Remnant only appeared after Afton had infected the system. Considering that I collected more than 14,000 Remnant when I still played the game, it's safe to say that we FNAF AR players have probably single-handedly doomed the FNAF franchise. Really goes to show why Shadow Bonnie was trying so hard to stop us, doesn't it? Anyways, with all that setup done, how about we get into some theories and predictions about what might happen in Security Breach, starting with the Pizzaplex itself. Based on what we've seen from the trailers and teasers, this place is much more massive than anything we could have ever imagined. So far, we've seen the main public access areas, which are likely at least 2 stories, along with backstage passageways, storage areas, the sewers, and even these strange trash caverns. And while some of those are certainly strange, I'd like to draw your attention to specifically the trash caverns in which we see something known as the Alpha Z6 groups. These things are pretty mysterious, though appear to be a conglomerate of 6 trash staff robots, likely an abandoned alpha series of the guys, though what's so interesting about them is their appearances. Besides being pretty filthy, they also have drawn-on tear tracks, black mouths with little jagged teeth, and the quote, "in your dreams," written on their bodies, all 6 identical in design. This is pretty strange for a number of reasons, but the biggest one seems to be on why they look the way they do. Many have pointed out how they slightly resemble Nightmarian, and while I agree with the similarities, I can't exactly think of a good reason for that to be the case. They could technically be possessed by Charlotte, but that wouldn't make much sense, would it? I think it might be best to leave these guys as a surprise for the game, and a pretty terrifying one at that. Anyways, let's take a step back to the trash caverns to consider what they even are. When I watched the trailer the first time, I thought they were just normal caves, but the walls are indeed made of trash bags, so what's up with that? Well, this is going to be a pretty far-reaching theory, but what if the Pizzaplex itself were built on an old landfill, piled high with years of garbage? Now, that'd be pretty strange on its own, but I have a feeling that at the bottom of this landfill may very well be the original Fredbear's Family Diner, based on the posters we got from Daco's charity stream. Considering how very few have ever wanted to associate themselves with Fazbear Entertainment based on their history, I wouldn't be surprised to learn that the original Fredbears had actually been buried deep beneath a landfill, with William now creating tunnels to it deep beneath the Pizzaplex. Those Fredbear's Family Diner posters really seem to indicate that this game will have something to do with the place, so perhaps we'll be returning to the location itself, though that begs the question, what would William want with the place? And, while we're on the topic of William's intent, what exactly is his plan? Well, like we hear from Special Delivery, odds are William's ultimate goal is to bring about the creation of his new body through excessive collection of remnant. So far, it looks like this body will be a combination of possibly purple animatronic parts with particularly sharp fingertips, and these tentacles, which are very reminiscent of the anomaly from Princess Quest. It's clear that William is a shell of himself, at least by the time of Princess Quest, and definitely in need of remnant to get his new form started, but I have a feeling that siphoning remnant from the Fazbear Funtime service just won't be enough. I have a feeling that William's looking to orchestrate a new missing children's instant. So far, we know very little of any of the other kids trapped in the Pizzaplex after hours, though it's safe to say that Vanny does, and she may have even captured these kids, leaving Gregory the only one on the run. Perhaps it wasn't just an accident that Gregory and 3 other children didn't make it out before closing. Perhaps he had narrowly avoided a new missing children's instant. Who knows? I guess we'll have to just wait and see, though rest assured that it's clear these 3 aren't going to be stuffed into their respective animatronics, at least not yet. William's likely got other plans for them, and that is what you should be concerned about. Now, about all that's left to cover is William's reluctant follower herself, Vanessa A, and we all know what A stands for. It's unclear if she's taken this last name as a tribute to the man himself, or if she's a true Afton descendant, but what matters is her dedication to him. After finishing the VR project and moving on to infect the AR project, Vanessa transferred to the position of security guard at the Pizzaplex, likely to both supervise the secret projects going on deep beneath, and to supervise future victims. While we know she'll be searching for us in her security uniform around the mall, it's also clear that she'll be hunting us down as Vanny, though when exactly she makes this costume change isn't exactly clear. It sounds like Vanessa's objective will be to locate Gregory and carry out William's plan to make a new body, but I have a feeling Vanessa's a lot more dedicated to him than he is to her. This is just speculation, but I could absolutely see William leaving her for dead, which would give us the perfect opportunity to redeem her. Is there a chance, even just a small one, that we could end up saving Vanessa from William's possession? Now, let's back up a bit. Why would I say that William would just toss aside Vanessa if he needed her? Well, what if he had someone better than her? Is William bringing Elizabeth back? Okay, hear me out. I know you've probably heard this one a million times by now, and believe me, I'm not just spouting off MatPat's most recent idea on Elizabeth. No, where my idea comes from is, again, Fury's Rage, where we see what looks to be a new form of Elizabeth in a sort of gestation pod. In all honesty, I'll say that the theory held a bit more weight when Eleanor was still only a parallel to Elizabeth her baby, and not actually canon to the timeline, but that doesn't mean the idea is done for. Besides the plot itself, this wouldn't be the first time that Williams prioritized Elizabeth as his second-in-command. In fact, he did that very thing in the novel trilogy, where Elizabeth was helping him transfer his consciousness to a new body. Now I think you might be seeing the bigger picture. Anyways, I think that's what I'd call the perfect prediction video. I might be cutting it a bit close, but it's a lot better than relying on the predictions I made a whole 10 months ago. Yeah, that video's pretty outdated. But if you did enjoy this video, then consider sticking around for my upcoming streams, where I'll be capturing my entire playthrough and discussing what I find in the game. Also consider checking out a set of videos made by Deepist in preparation for Security Breach 2, the second of which I'm featured in. Major thanks to him for some of the epic renders used in this and future videos. Anyways, I think I'm gonna call it a night. Peace out, everybody.